Many thanks to Fatal Attraction Squad, One Original DayZ servers, Clash Vanilla servers, Sgt. Pepper servers, Sea of Tools Cloud, We That Remain Roleplay, DayZ Sentinel servers, the Struggle Community, the Karma Crew servers, and DayZ Kraken leaderboards for making this video possible. DayZ 1.27 has given the SV98 a major buff, and loot has changed across all maps too, so in this video we're going to be looking at why the SV98 will dominate in this patch, the drastic changes to loot tiers on Sakhal, and why it's going to be harder to get inside the bunker now. The first major change to weapons is how the Mosin is no longer going to be 100% accurate with an optic now, reducing its maximum range from 1050 meters to 980 meters instead, which brings it more in line with the other snipers in DayZ in terms of range. This is due to a direct accuracy nerf on the Mosin itself, which has also been applied to the SVD and new wooden SVD, but the SVD is still 100% accurate with an optic attached, so its base and maximum range are still going to be the same. This is the case with the SV98 too, which got an accuracy buff instead, but like the SVD, it doesn't affect its base or maximum range. However, due to the SVD now being 0.00085, a sight won't make it 100% accurate, only an optic like the PSO or the night vision optic will. This is inversely true for the SV98 this patch. Basically the numbers were switched around, so any optic or sight will make the SV98 100% accurate now instead of just optics. Moreover, the SV98 has also seen a damage buff, where the Mosin has seen a damage nerf. This damage buff and nerf comes in the form of projectile speed changes, which not only impacts the damage at 0 meters shown here, but several other stats too. Looking at this in terms of damage over range, the SV98 has a 10% buff compared to last patch, or in terms of how slowly it loses damage mid-flight, it's a nice 16% slower. Again, this is because of projectile speed changes on these weapons, decreasing the Mosin's speed by around 3% while it's flying through the air, and increasing the SV98's by around 13%. This indirectly improves the penetration power of the SV98, but most importantly, and also indirectly, how far away you can kill and KO players. In the last patch, the SV98 could one-hit kill an unprotected player in the torso at 390 meters outright dead. Now it's 510, or in other words, you can now kill players with the SV98 30% further away than last patch. With the Mosin, the difference isn't as noticeable, with a 420 meter to kill, now 390, so a 7% reduction. This decrease also applies to the Mosin's shock damage too, don't forget that, so a reduction from 800 to 770 meters to KO, whereas the SV98 can now KO players at a huge 890 meters away, as shown here, up from 770 meters last patch. This makes the SV98 the best weapon in the game to damage players at long distances and preserving its damage over range, as you can see from this stat here, as no other weapon can come close to killing or KOing at this distance, with the DMR losing its top spot as the best sniper for damage. And this doesn't mean that the SV98 is the best sniper in DayZ now, but it certainly is up there with the very best of them, and I'm sure will be a weapon of choice for many more players due to this significant buff in this patch. In summary then, here are the changes to weapons in this patch, with the SVD only getting a minor nerf when it comes to sights over optics, but there were other changes in this patch when it comes to weapons. These changes are only sound changes, so here are the previous sounds compared to the new ones. All four SMGs sound different, and so does the suppressed sounds that they make. But the maximum distance that they can be heard at is still 1400 meters. The only other sound changes are the plastic explosive deployment sound and the disarm explosive sound. On Chernarus, the AKM drum mag is now only going to be found at helis and convoys, and the chance of finding the SV98 and mag is going to be slightly reduced, probably due to this buff. On Livonia, the AK-101 will be spawning less, but it is still found in the same location, floor 2 of the bunker, which is now where the mini-AUG will spawn correctly. It spawned on floor 1 for me, but I believe it can spawn on any floor. The LAR mag also spawns correctly now, and is set to spawn at helis and convoys instead of gas zones. Speaking of which, the gas zone at Radanen will now kill players correctly with gas poisoning, and like Chernarus, the chance of finding the SV98 on Livonia and its magazine has been slightly reduced. On Sakhal, there are some major changes once again, with the biggest change being to the tier areas and where they're located. In the last patch, tier 4 covered southern Barakan, showed here in blue or cyan if you want to be exact. Now, I believe that tier 4 has been moved to the new shipwreck area, and tier 3 will now be stretched down to the south of Barakan, so the whole of Barakan and Nagovo Airfield will be tier 3, whereas tier 4 is going to be at the shipwreck. This is just a theory though, because we won't know for sure until stable 1.27 is released in a few weeks, I guess, but based on where this stuff is spawning in 1.27 and the tests I've done from the game files, I'm 95% sure this is the case. As for the loot then, the AK-74 spawned a maximum of 18 times on a server, now it's down to 4 times, but additional 74s can be found inside dynamic containers now, and was moved to tier 3 from tier 4, so it can spawn at Nagovo Airfield now too. It's the same for the field bag, now spawning tier 3 instead of tier 4, but cannot spawn inside dynamic containers, and that's the case for the claymores, tier 3 instead of 4. Loose 5.56 ammo moved to tier 4 only, so the shipwreck, giving us confidence as to where tier 4 is, because this is the only location 5.56 loose ammo will spawn, but 5.56 boxes can be found inside dynamic containers. The FAMAS or LAMAS has been added to Sakhal, so it now spawns on Sakhal, only spawning in tier 4 though, alongside its magazine, so it's only found at the shipwreck. The M16 will only be found at the shipwreck too. It used to spawn inside dynamic containers, now restricted to tier 4. This is also the only location you're going to find high-end suppressors now, so the NATO and AK suppressors are only found at the shipwreck. The M69 was tier 4 only last patch, now it can spawn inside dynamic containers too, while also spawning in tier 4, so the shipwreck again. The 10 round C-Mag spawns at the shipwreck and dynamic containers, whereas the 20, 30 and 40 C-Mags are dynamic containers only. It's a similar story with DMR mags, but only the 10 can be found at the shipwreck, whereas the 20 on its own can be found at dynamic containers. The UMP or USG now spawns on Sakhal, but surprisingly can only be found at the shipwreck. I guess this is due to lore reasons, with its mag being found in the same location, but can also spawn inside dynamic containers too. The modern SVD has been replaced with a wooden version, but only on Sakhal, so the wooden is for Sakhal and the modern version is Livonia and Chernarus, and FYI there are absolutely no stat differences between the modern and wooden version. The new mini bunkers spawn mid-tier military gear and sometimes tools, usually spawning around 1 to 2 pieces of loot. Not really worth getting out of your boat to loot, I'd say, but the containers certainly are worth looting still. However, the loot inside containers is now mixed with random military weapons and ammo found in lower tiers, so all tiers. This means weapons like the 1911 P1, IJ-70, the Scorpion, AKS-74U, 74U, and their ammo too. But these containers can now spawn up to 9 pieces of loot instead of 3 pieces of loot, so it works out, I guess, as a buff as you get more loot, but the keys you need to open these containers will probably make this feel like enough. These keys will only spawn at tier 4, which appears to be the shipwreck only, which is well worth looting, I would say, especially if you need high-end suppressors, probably making the shipwreck a highly contested, dangerous area, especially considering how open it is out here, and changing loot progression on Sakhal as a result for sure, as the only way to get an M4 or a DMR on Sakhal right now is to go here first. Compared to last patch, there are 20 more potential container spawn points, but they're mostly in the same location, so you probably won't notice, and the stats haven't changed either, so a maximum of 16 of these will be on a server at once. This is also the case with the Frozen Scientist. Everything works the same and spawns the same stuff inside the briefcase, but he can now be found in 12 more different locations around the volcano, certainly making him harder to find now, which indirectly means that the bunker is harder to access too. You're now up to date with DayZ 1.27 when it comes to weapon and loot changes, but if you want to learn about the map changes, here they are here. Thank you very much for watching, have a good day.